So, welcome to our training here. I want to just go ahead and tell you grab a notebook and a pen because we're going to be going into some juiciness today. So, I want to make sure you understand that today is going to be, even though it's going to sound weird when I say this, it's going to be an overview of what we're going to talk about the entire month of August, which is sales, selling, really getting into selling. Even though today is an overview, we're still going to get kind of down into the nitty gritty of things. So I just want you to know that. So make sure you grab your notebook and your pen so that you can take notes. Okay. For those, we've got several new folks here in the community. So I do want to introduce myself for those that may not be aware. I'm Karena Calhoun. I'm a life and business strategist for introverted women entrepreneurs. And so just to let you know, though, you don't have to be an introvert to work with me. I get people saying that frequently. They're like, but I'm not an introvert, but you don't have to be. Okay, so the strategies, the techniques that I teach and train on are not only for introverts, but they are geared for introverts so that it's not really that high pressure stuff that we have been forced to do out in the business world. Okay. I also wanted to let you know, those that are new to the community, we hold a free training here every Tuesday at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to get in on it, by all means, please do. The replay is typically put up. It's up there, so you don't have to worry about that. So let's dive in. I want to tell you this. The reason why I am doing a full month of sales training is because I held a poll here in the community recently, and a whopping 26% of you said selling was the lead topic that you wanted me to talk about. There were a few others, and we'll get into those in the coming weeks and months, or months rather, but for August, we're going to be talking about selling. Okay, we're going to be talking about selling. We're gonna really lean into the key components of selling with confidence, building trust, crafting compelling sales pitches, and then also handling objections. Because I feel like those are the 4 areas that we just really need to hone in on. And these are all designed really to help you leverage your unique strengths as an introvert. So if you're watching this, especially if you're watching the replay and you're thinking, again, Karena, I'm not really an introvert, but I could use some support in sales, then this is going to be, you really want to dial in this month. Okay. So before we get started though, and this is for whether you're watching the live or watching the replay, I want to check in just a little bit with the confidence level when it comes to sales. So if you could drop in the chat, drop in the comments or the chat, wherever you see this, I want you to drop in there on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you currently feel when it comes to selling? 1 being not so confident, 10 being I'm great at it. So drop your number in the chat, and just so that you know, there's no judgment here. I'm just getting a feel for where everyone is, because I want to make sure I'm providing the value that you need to help you go be great. I can't tell you to go be great and don't give you the strategies that you need. So if you're watching the live or the replay, I want you to drop in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel right now about selling? 1 being not so confident, 10 being I'm great at it. So I just want to give it a second just to let that populate for those that are watching live. And then for those that are, okay, Jen Nix says 6. Okay, that's great. That's great. So again, for those that are watching live and watching the replay, how confident are you about selling? 1, not so confident. 10, I'm great at it. Jen Blackburn says 2. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about the confidence piece of selling. Now, as introverts, we typically, and this is true for other personalities as well, but we deal with self-doubt and really that fear of rejection. But I want to tell you that selling with confidence is possible. And so I'm going to give you some tips, some really key pointers to help you. And the reason why I know this to be true, first and foremost, I had to move from those spaces of self-doubt and fear of rejection into being able to sell. When I launched my first big launch signature program, I was able to do close to 10 figures. 10K 10 figures, 10K for that launch, because the selling piece for me had changed. It was no longer where, and if you've heard me talk about this in the past, I've told you all this story of, this was 30 years ago, I was working in a department store, and I was in the shoe department, and the manager was training me, and he was telling me, you're going to go to the back, they're going to, a customer's going to come, they're going to want a pair of shoes, they're going to tell you what size they need, and you're going to go to the back, to the warehouse, you're going to get the size, but you're going to ask them, is there anything else that they need? Do they want some pantyhose? Do they want some socks? Do they want a shoehorn? Do they want any of these things? Because you want to upsell. And that thought stayed in my mind really for 30 years, almost 30 years, where I was saying, I am not selling anybody anything, because either they want it or they don't. And so I let that thought permeate everything about me when it came to business. So I hated selling, I didn't want to sell, and I avoided it, which meant I didn't make any money like I needed to. So Waukesha says, I'm a 10 at selling in the DMs, but selling via content at 1. Okay. So the first thing that we really need to do to dial into selling specifically within the idea of an introvert is to really leverage our strengths. And you all know I talk about introversion as an advantage. And once we understand our advantages, once we understand the core of who we are, we begin to understand that we actually, the things that people pick at us about or joke us about, the things that they down talk us about, are actually solid advantages that we can use to build our business, whatever it is, whether it's a business, whether it's in our career, whatever the case is, we can use those to our advantage, but we have to know what they are. So when it comes to selling, the first key point is leverage your strengths. What are your strengths? It's time to identify them. You as an introvert, typically, you lean into deep listening. Okay? And we're going to get into this because I know you're probably thinking, Karena, what does this have to do with selling? Everything. Literally everything. When you are deep listening, you're able to pay attention to what your clients, your ideal clients, are saying. Then you're able to reflect back and with their own words and give them that feeling of She gets me. She understands me. What is the first thing that you need to do in selling? You need to make sure they understand you get them. And when you lean into deep listening, you're able to 100% build that rapport. Because if I'm on a call with someone and they're trying to sell me something and I don't feel like they're listening to me, or I don't feel like they get me, that conversation is done. In my mind, we can still talk, but the sale is done. There is no sale going to happen because I don't want to be misaligned. Customers now, right now in the last half of 2024, one of the trends is, and this is why a lot of people are not making the sales that they need to make. One of the trends is customers are becoming even more savvy. Discernment is heightened right now. So they're able to look and say, you know what, this person doesn't get me. This person doesn't understand me. This person is giving me a cookie cutter. Therefore, I don't want to deal with it. Okay. The other thing is the communication. We speak after we've thought about it, which means our responses are well considered, they're well thought through, and typically they are impactful. I know I'm not the only one that has experienced this, but I have been on Zoom calls back when, what's that other platform? Clubhouse. All of these platforms, I have been on them and have experienced where people are going around the room and I'm like one of the last ones to speak and they say, oh my God, that was so impactful. That was so powerful. That's the sign of an introvert because we are reflecting. We're not the first one to jump at the mic. Use that as your advantage when you are talking to your potential client. Okay? Because you're able to, when you're thinking it through, what they're saying, how they're behaving, all of these things, you're able to have a clear, concise, meaningful conversation with them. And that is going to let them know that you understand their needs. And you're not just placing them, attempting to place them into something that you've built out that is only, you know, oh, this is the only way it's going to be able to happen. This is the only way that you're going to be able to do this. And you have to fit this mold. Now, I'm not saying you're going to go and change everything for every single client, but your clients need to know that they're more than a number. They need to know this. The other thing is our mindset. We have to shift our mindset. Shift it from selling to helping. That was the number one thing that changed the game for me. When I went from I'm selling this to someone to I'm helping them, I'm supporting them, it changed everything. And I'll talk a little bit more about the difference between helping and supporting because there's some psychology behind that. But selling versus helping or supporting is completely different. Because if I am bringing this offer to you, I am supporting you, and that takes the stress off of me to make a sale. It takes the perceived stress off of you to buy. But it also allows you to identify people who are solution seeking. You can have someone who is problem aware but not solution seeking. Problem aware and solution seeking, probably going to be someone that you're going to sign on. But if they're not solution seeking, then they're not going to want to sign on with you. So you'll be able to identify clearly this person is solution seeking. They know that they know the problem that they have, and they are looking for the solution. This problem is bothering them so much right now that they absolutely 100% need the solution and I have the solution, and they know that I have the solution, and they know that I understand them, they know that I'm here to support them, that's just a partnership waiting to happen. That's a partnership waiting to happen. And so when you think about this, it's value-based selling. We're still going to put the selling on there, but it's value-based selling. So instead of thinking about closing the sale, you're going to think about how you're providing this value for this individual. You're going to start asking yourself, how can my product or my service solve this client's problem in a way that they understand this is a necessity? They have to know that they are solution seeking first, though. Okay? So this approach, when you begin to change the mindset, then you begin to understand that, okay, I'm moving out of the stress of selling, and into, I'm building a partnership with these people. Okay? So that's some of, we're going to go deep into this. Okay? This is just an overview, and this is not everything, but this is just an overview. So that's one of the first things. We're going to be talking about 4 things throughout this entire month of August. But that's just a little bit inside of the confidence piece. Okay? Just a little bit inside of the confidence piece. So the next part is really building out that trust and that rapport. Building out the trust and the rapport. So the next thing is, I want you to drop something in the comments for me, because I want to see this. I want you to tell me one thing that you feel you're naturally good at when it comes to selling. One thing. Just one thing. And it doesn't matter if you said, I know Jen Blackburn said she's a 2. Her confidence is a 2 at selling. Jen Nick said a 6. Waukesha said a 10. But when it comes to selling with via content, it's a 1. So regardless of what number you previously put, I want you to drop an emoji that represents one thing that you feel like you're naturally good at. And I just talked about a couple of things. So it might be listening. You might be a great listener. It could be whatever, you just at least one thing that you feel like you're really good at when it comes to sales. But I want you to let me know one thing that you feel you're naturally good at when it comes to selling. Regardless of how you feel overall when it comes to selling. Drop an emoji that represents one thing. One thing. It could be listening. Even though communication is a part of listening, it could be communication. It might be mindset. I don't know. Whatever, anything. Because you know you better than me. But just give me one emoji that represents a strength that you have when it comes to selling. Doesn't necessarily mean you're the best at selling. It's just one thing. Okay. Jamaica says, Jamaica has a brain, so I think that's thinking it through. That's great. Jen Nick said couldn't find an emoji, but relationship building. That's great. Donna, is that painting a picture? Jen Blackburn is heart. Waukesha, I think that's maybe presentation. So this is good. And so it's really good to sit down and think, okay, regardless of how I feel about selling, regardless of how selling goes for me at this current moment, it's really good to sit down and think of at least one thing that you're good at, because that's the one thing that you're going to capitalize on. Okay, creating something custom for their taste. Awesome. And that's a part of it. That's building that rapport. That's building that trust. That's building that rapport, which is the second thing that we're going to talk about. Again, we're going to talk about 4 things during the entire month of August. And these 4 main points these are things that when we dial into them, they're going to help us really elevate that selling experience. Okay. So selling through presentation. Awesome. So when you think about trust when it comes to selling, it is the foundational piece to success in sales. And just as Jen said, she's really good at relationship building. So that's something that can really help in sales. So maybe if you're not so good in one area, you build up the other areas so that they are able to shine more predominantly. So a couple of things that you can build up just really naturally out the gate. You can start today, even if you're not where you want to be when it comes to sales. The first thing you can build out is authenticity, being genuine in your interactions. Clients can discern authenticity and appreciate it. Your potential clients can discern it and they appreciate it. So be yourself. Don't try to imitate others. I'm going to provide to y'all, to y'all. I'm country. But I'm going to provide to y'all some scripts, but they're not for you to read down the script when you're on a sales call. They're for you to get an idea of how to execute that call when you're on that call. Okay? So you want to make sure you're being yourself. You want to make sure you're being authentic. You can use these scripts just to get a feel for, okay, these are things that I really need to touch on in the sales call. But you want to speak from your heart and you want to let your true personality really shine through. Authenticity is going to build that trust and it's going to make you more relatable to your potential client. The other thing is being consistent. Being consistent. You want to make sure you're maintaining that communication, reliable communication, I might add, and follow through on promises. This shows that you're dependable, even before you get to that sales call. So make sure you're following up. Again, these are things that can really help you as it's leading up to those sales calls. Be transparent. Be open and honest about your offering. Transparency really builds out that trust. If there's any limitations, any challenges with your products or your services, you want to be upfront about it. Clients appreciate that. Let them know. I've had to let people know, who are not introverts, who have been clients, that this is how I operate. This is my boundary, and I'm not willing to go past this specific boundary. And then it's up to them to decide if they want to hire me as their strategist. And feel okay about that. Feel good about that, because you want to give them the best of you and the best of your services. Okay? The other thing is provide value. Listen, I give away so much information. And it's not because I don't know my value and I don't know my worth. It's because I know the concept and what it means to build rapport, build a relationship. I know what it means to build that trust. I have so much expertise and so much experience and so much insight that what I give is just a tip of the iceberg. What I give for free doesn't even encompass the totality of what I have to offer. So you have to know that even if you give, but people say, well, I'm going to go over here to Susie Q and hire her. They were probably not you're not supposed to be your client. They were probably not supposed to be your client. So then the third thing, so again, there's four specific pieces that we're going to be talking about in August. The third thing is, and I talked about this a little bit, that script. We're going to go more into that. And again, I'm going to provide to you some scripts, but your sales pitch really needs to be compelling, but it needs to be authentic. It needs to resonate with your audience. It needs to clearly convey the value of your offer. And there are specific ways you can structure it. And again, it doesn't mean you go into a sales call or sales conversation reading a script, but you want to have an idea of how it should flow. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in this specific order or a specific order, but you want to be able to really hit those points so that they go into this conversation, they walk out of this conversation. If they decide they want to sign that contract, they leave this conversation knowing what it is they're getting and what it is they're not getting. So I'm gonna give you just like, again, an overview of how your sales pitch, and I hate to use that word. I hate to use pitch, but it's the only word I can use so that we know we're on the same page. I don't like elevator pitch. I don't like sales pitch. I just, so my mom, let me just kind of stop here. My mom has always loved baseball. And so growing up, she was always a Braves fan. My entire childhood, she was a Braves fan. When she was in the military, she played softball. She's just always been into baseball. Now she's a Cubs fan for some reasons that happened a couple of years ago. I don't know. That's her business. Anyway, and so when I think of pitch, elevator pitch, sales pitch, any kind of pitch, I think of someone pitching a ball at a high rate of speed and someone else on the other end catching it, but then the other person trying their best to hit that ball. So to me, when I see pitch or hear pitch, that's what I'm thinking about. I should not be throwing this at you at a high rate of speed and hoping you get it. It defeats the purpose, the intent and the purpose of everything that we're doing. So just a little side note there of why I hate pitch. Because it defeats everything of what we're doing and why we're trying to do it. So anyway, when it comes to your sales pitch, you've got to understand your audience. And I talked about this before. You have to know their needs. You really have to know what are their preferences. What is it that's paining them? What's the pain that they're feeling? Do you fully understand that? And you want to be able to have, if you're having sales conversations with your 100% ideal client, your dream client, then this is pretty much going to be the same across the board. But you can have that pitch address their specific concerns. You don't want to do it too much because you don't want to start promising people stuff that's not true, but you want to have an idea, okay? Because you should have nurtured that conversation at some point. So one of the best ways to do this before that call, that presentation, whatever the situation is, you want to research your specific client. Have you done a survey? Have you asked them, questions? Did you have them complete a form? What are some of the things that they've previously talked about? You want to use this information to really begin to make sure it's a perfect fit for both you and them. Okay, so you want to structure it with strong, attention-grabbing words, content, whatever it is that aligns with you and them, but you're using their language, okay? So you want to make sure you have in there, you want to talk about the problem that they're facing. You want to talk about the solution, and then the benefits that come with the solution, the benefits that they're going to get. You don't want to talk too much about, hey, this is my solution. This is you want to have it in there some, but you don't want to have, out of a 45-minute conversation, 40 minutes of your products and services. They should be aligning themselves with you, with your services, and knowing and understanding that you have the solution. I can tell you, I'm one of those people that I could really care less about what it is you are. If we are aligned, I could care less about what it is you're selling. I'm more interested in, are we aligned? Because if we're aligned, then whatever the solution is going to be right for me. I'm one of those people, I don't do window shopping. Like, I know exactly what I want. I know what my problem is. I know that I need a solution, and I'm ready to get the solution. So doing a whole bunch of window shopping is just not for me. So those are the types of clients I like to have, because they know exactly, they're ready. So again, make sure you're talking about that problem. Make sure you are talking about the solution, the benefits. You want to make sure you are talking about those things, okay? And if you have proof, provide that proof. Show those real life examples, okay? How other people have benefited. And then at the end of all of this, you want to make sure you have really set the tone and allowed them to make that decision. Waukesha says, I've always heard to let them talk on the call and invite them into their transformation and solution. Absolutely. And in that, you still need to make sure you understand what their problem is, what their solution is, and how to let them know that they align with your solution, and your solution aligns with their problem. So there's still going to be some talking that you have to do. Okay. You're still going to have to do that. All right. You want to be clear about everything that you're saying. So if you're messaging, say for instance, you've been social selling, you've had, all of this content on social media, and it points in this direction, but then when you get on that sales call, it points in this direction, that's a no-go. That's a no-go. You want to make sure everything is clear. You want to make sure everything lines up. Okay. You want to make sure everything is clear and everything is lined up. So those were the three of the four things that we're going to be talking about for the month of August. We're going to be talking about confidence in selling. Okay. We're going to be talking about building trust and rapport. And then we're also going to be talking about how to really craft, I think it's going to be how to craft a compelling sales pitch. Again, I don't want to use that word. Maybe I'll find another word, but that's the only word I can think of right now. So crafting a compelling sales pitch. And then the fourth thing that we're going to get into is objection handling. objection handling. Okay, so before we get into that, I want to ask you to put in the chat. This is the last time I want you to put in the chat. When it comes to objections, what's the most common objection that you hear when you are having your sales calls? What's the most common objection that you hear when you're having your sales calls? And this is really going to help me later as I am providing just the really tips and tools, for the August content. So drop that in the chat, in the comments. The most common objection you hear from clients. Waukesha says, I can't afford it right now. Yep. Anybody else? So, when it comes to objections, a couple of things we really need to dial into. Jamaica says, can't afford services. Yep. A couple of things that we really need to dial into when it comes to objections. Objections, number one, can be a confidence buster. Donna says, I don't really have sales calls, but in conversations sometimes about a piece of art, it is the price. Gotcha. So when it comes to objections, and handling objections, sometimes we don't handle them the best, and sometimes they can just really diminish our confidence, our self-confidence in ourselves. We take it on as personal. Is it me? Is it something that I've done wrong? And I've done I did a workshop, a master class on selling, where you're selling, not really selling your soul, so to speak, but you're selling with soul. And I talk about the 3 C's that, and this is a concept that is not a new concept, but it's something that I believe really needs to be brought into the selling piece, especially for us introverts, and it's being careful, careless, and caring. And we'll go into that, but diminishing ourselves because someone has said no for whatever the reason is not okay. And so this is something that we have to begin to really turn around and dial into these objections so that they don't affect us personally, and then we're able to move through them. And if the person is still saying no, then it's probably not the objection that they're giving, but they just don't want to do it sometimes. Okay. So the first thing that you really want to do when it comes to objections is you want to really listen. And I've talked about this a lot in this specific call, but active listening is key. That's going to help so many different things in our lives. But the active listening, when it comes to selling, will help you to understand the objection completely before you respond. So listening to what they're saying. So when a client raises an objection, listen without interrupting. Also listen without forming your thought or your response. Active listening is listening. Don't form a thought. Don't form a response, because when your brain starts doing all of that, you're not listening to them fully. You're not listening to everything that they're saying. You can take notes just to make sure You understand their concern completely before you do respond, and feel free to, speak it back to them. So what I think I hear you saying, so my husband and I went through some active listening. This has been years ago, and we just at home did a study on active listening. And so now he'll say, so what I think I hear you saying is, so it's okay to say that, because that's going to trigger that person saying, you know what, she's listening to me, she hears what I'm saying, and she's not bulldozing her way through, running me over with her own response. Because how many times have you been on some type of sales call, or been in a place where someone was selling something, it was a salesperson, and you know for a fact that what you just said got bulldozed through and they heard nothing of what you said. They already had their objection buster in their mind. So as soon as you spoke that last syllable, they were already ready. That is the most demeaning type of conversation to have. That is the most demeaning conversation to have. So what you want to be able to do is listen actively. Wait for them to be done before you start thinking of your response. This is going to allow you to bring in empathy and acknowledge what their concerns are. Okay? Absolutely, Jen. So for example, if someone says, money is a concern, I understand that, that budget is a concern for you. These are some other options that I have. Let's talk about how we can make this fit your budget. You may have options that they haven't considered. Or you may have a solution where it's going to allow them to make money in a certain amount of time, and then they'll be able to really put forth more effort into it. So what is the situation? You're not going to know until you actually think about it. Okay? You want to clarify things. You want to ask questions. Get to the root of the objection. Understand it. Can you tell me more about what's concerning you with the pricing? This helps you understand their underlying issue. Okay? So these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about when it comes to sales. When it comes to sales. And I can tell you that 9 times out of 10, when they say that the objection is cost, that's typically not the cost. That's not the objection. That's not the real reason. We'll get more into that. But we're going to talk more about that. But that's typically not the real reason. Sometimes it can be. Like if I tell you money is the issue, best believe money is the issue. If I just listen, this is not for me, is what's going to come out my mouth. Or, whatever the situation is. So 9 times out of 10, when they say, I can't afford it, you can afford, well, we'll get into all of that later. So nonetheless, this has just been really a sneak peek into what's to come in August. Okay? Because again, I had that poll here in the community. And again, 26% of you said selling is the lead topic that you wanted me to talk about. So all of August, that's what we're going to be talking about. I did not feel like, with so many of you saying that selling was the top thing, I did not feel like one session was going to do it. So we're going to focus on it all month. Okay? All month. Now, I want to say this too. Focusing on it in the training, in these free trainings on Tuesdays at 3:15. But also make sure you sign up for my newsletter, because I'll have some information in there that you can really lean into. My blogs are going to be focusing on the selling piece. So every single step of the way, if you sign up for my newsletter, you get my blog, and you come to these live trainings, you're going to be set. You're going to be set. You are going to be set. So Tuesdays at 3:15 here in the group. My newsletters come out on Wednesdays at 11. Blog comes out just prior to that. But if you get the newsletter, you don't have to worry about it. It's all going to be there in the same spot. Make sure you turn on notifications here in the group. I try not to use the everyone feature too often because it's a pet peeve of mine. So that's something that I try not to use too often, unless it's like, listen, I need us to gather. That's what this gather. I need us to gather because this information is going to be pivotal. So that's when you see me using that at everyone feature that Facebook has. Link for the newsletter, absolutely. Let me pull that up. Let's see. Let me drop that in here. Okay, Jen, I just dropped it in there. So the favicon says Go Be Great podcast, but that's not it. I'll have to go in and make sure that's changed. But it is the newsletter. You should be able to sign up for the newsletter. Oh, it is the podcast. What in the world? Let me get the right one. I don't know what in the world. Bum, bum, bum. Let me get the right one. Here we go. I'm just gonna send the form. I'm gonna drop the form in here. Okay, there you go. So click that, complete the form, and you will be getting the newsletter. And you know, I am committing to making sure you have the things that you need. I did that poll because I wanted to make sure, you know, I'm very service oriented. So I wanted to make sure you are getting the things that you all need. Okay. You are very welcome, Jen. So make sure you get the newsletter. Make sure you turn notifications on here in the community. Okay. The other thing, one last thing, from August 5th to September 2nd, I'm going to be hosting a 21-day connection catalyst. Okay. This is a text message based journey. Okay. This is so cool. What's going to happen is when you sign up for this, every day for 21 days, 21 business days, because August 5th through September 2nd is more than 21 days. So 21 business days, you're going to get a text from me that's going to be either a prompt, a task, something to help you build your business. And if you hear correctly, if you listen, this is going to teach you everything that you need to do to build your business, and you're going to have this. And the reason why I did 21 days is because they say it takes 21 days to build a habit, to create a habit. So if we do this Monday through Friday for 21 days, every single day doing something to build our business, that's going to create that positive habit. So the tasks, the prompts, the things that you're going to get, it's going to take you no more than about 30 minutes to do. So you're talking about adding 30 minutes, we'll just say 1 hour, just to put it out there and say, okay, just for 1 hour. If you do 1 hour, these different things each day, you should be able to see your business growing. Okay. Now, the great part about this is it is $1 a day. $1 a day. 21 days, $1 a day. So it's $21. And again, you're going to be able to build out your business habits, because I am finding that people are struggling with that. So I'm going to drop the link to that. I'm going to drop the link for that. $21 total. Okay? $1 a day. I am finding that people don't know what to do on a daily basis when it comes to building their business. People don't put in the time the time that they need to build their business. So that's what I'm going to text you. Now, if you're not in the United States, I'm not going to text you. You will get an email, but you can still participate. You'll just get an email. But if you're in the States, you will get a text message. Okay? So this is all. Thank you, Donna. Thank you. I appreciate that. I try to be creative. I do. Because I listen, and let this be a learning situation for everyone. You have to listen to your audience. You have to listen to what they're saying. I'm not saying you have to go out of who you are and different things like that. But I know from having conversations with people that this is probably going to be the best way, the best solution for them as they're beginning to build out their business. And one of the things that I see is an issue. But you have to have these conversations with people. I'm in my DMs all the time. I get text messages. I get emails. I talk to my folks. I talk to people, whether they are a client or not. I talk to people who are my ideal audience. So you have to get into the habit of it. So I think we've covered enough today. So I've been on for just over an hour now. That was not the plan. That was not the goal. I try not to hold you all too long. But today I just really wanted to get a really good overview of what's to come in August. So set your notifications, set your calendar. Every Tuesday, 3:15 p.m. we're going to be right here. They may go a little bit longer depending on the content, depending on the questions, things like that, because we got to win. Y'all have to win. So that is it. If there are any other questions, drop them in the comments, and I will be sure to answer them as quickly as I can. So I love y'all, and I'll see you later. Bye.